Everyone, and welcome to Java Basics. In this video, we will try to build something a bit more useful by using conditional statements, arguments, and arrays. We'll also use the debugger, which is one of the best ways to learn programming. Let's continue from where we left off, but this time I want the parameter we pass to the application in the command line to be the name. I want this to be optional, so I'm using an if statement. This is exactly what it means. If there is more than 0 arguments, perform the code within the scope under the if statement. Notice that Java allows you to avoid the curly braces, in which case only the next line will be the scope of the if statement. The code within the braces of the if statement is called a condition. It is a Boolean expression that means it can be true or false. If it's true, the scope immediately following the if statement is performed. The condition is pretty simple. It has 3 elements. On the left-hand side, we have the parameter this method receives, which is an array of strings containing the command line arguments. An array is a special type of variable that can contain 0 or more entries within. All arrays in Java have a length field that we can use to check their length. Next, we have the operator. We can use one of the following operators. This statement will be true if x is bigger than y. This means that if x is 3 and y is 1, the statement will be true. But if the reverse was the case, then the statement would be false. We can write the smaller than operator too. This is the exact same condition, but it's more convenient for us to read sometimes. But here's a trick question. What would be returned here? True or false? I'll give you a second to pause the video and think about it. This would be false, since 1 isn't bigger than 1. For that, we have a different operator altogether, greater than or equals, which will return true in this case and also work for cases where the left value is larger. We can also reverse this to the smaller than operator. Now, you might incorrectly assume that this is a valid condition. It isn't. The reason is that we use the equal sign to assign values to variables, and that can be confusing. Instead, we use the double equals sign to indicate an equality sign, which means this test would be true, and this test would be false. There's a lot more to say about conditions, but for now I think we got the gist of it. So let's go back to the code. We effectively check the array has more than 0 elements within it. Now that we know it has, I can take the first value from that array and set the name. That means I can pass a name as a parameter to the application. Notice that every element in the array is numbered, starting from 0. This is a bit confusing to new developers, as an array with the length of 1 has 1 element within it, and it's at offset 0. An array of 3 elements has element 0, 1, and 2. This sometimes takes a while, but it will become obvious as we move on. Now let's do something really fun. I'm clicking in the gutter area on the left-hand side, and it adds a red circle. That's a breakpoint. We're going to debug. Debugging is how developers test their applications. It's a great tool to find bugs or problems in our application, but it's also an amazing learning tool. We can use the debugger to explore how our application works and see how it behaves in runtime. Let's proceed. Instead of clicking the Run button, I click the Debug button next to it, and IntelliJ stops at the line that I marked. It means the application is running, but it's now paused on that line, and I can look at everything that it's doing under the hood. You'll notice the value for args appears when I hover over the variable. IntelliJ also has a unique feature where it shows the value grayed out next to the line on the right-hand side. That isn't code, that's the value of the variable. It's just a display element that you can't edit. In the right-hand side, where my mouse is, you can see the args value. This is the watch area. We can inspect all the variables here and see exactly what our application is doing. Notice that the value for args is an opening and closing bracket. Between these brackets, we should see the values in the array. The array has no elements, which means its length is 0. We can now press F8, or we can press the step over button in the toolbar. This will move to the next instruction. Notice that it skipped the body of the if statement. That's because args has no elements, so length will be 0. Since 0 isn't larger than 0, the statement is false, and we skip the if condition. And because of that, the printout ends up as hello shy, same as it was before. The code we added seems to have had no impact at all. Or has it? Let's select the Run menu and click Edit Configuration. Here I can edit the program arguments field and set U as the argument to the program. Normally, when we run the application outside of the IDE, I'll give that command in the command line. This makes it easy to test things in the IDE. I click OK and press Debug again, at which point we hit the breakpoint again. But notice that something is very different this time around. The array contains elements within it. We can expand it in the watch area and see the element that we have there. If we would have added additional arguments, they would have shown up here as well. Also notice the value of my name. It's currently still shy. If you don't understand something, I urge you to try debugging it. This tool helps you see what's going on. If you master the debugger, you'll be able to figure out any code within the IDE. Let's step over again. The assignment statement happened. We took the value from the argument array and placed it into the field. So the value of my name became you. This is the most basic power of variables. We can get their value from anywhere and assign it. That's how applications provide logic that adapts to your needs. Next, we can press the Continue button here, which just continues the application, and we can see that Hello You was printed. Our new logic worked. Well, we went over a lot of important subjects in this video. I think the most important one is the debugger. I suggest playing with it and understanding your code. In the next video, we'll discuss loops, passing arguments, and more. If you have any questions, please use the comments section. Thank you.